Hello, everybody. I'm Will.
And I'm Kristin.
And this is So I'm Watching This Show, your twice weekly pop culture podcast where we talk about movies, TV, music, and more. And as always, this is a spoiler show, so you have been warned. On today's episode, we're going to talk broadly about the kaiju, which is a word I knew. I did, actually. The kaiju movies. And more specifically about Kong Skull Island.
Yes.
We're going to do Godzilla versus Kong, and I was really not all that enthused about it. I've had a mediocre.
Well, you had a panic attack during Godzilla.
We'll get into it, but I've just kind of had a mediocre sort of like meh with these movies thus far.
I think they're great.
You and Will have really enjoyed them, and so my mom doesn't like monkeys. They scared her when she was a little girl.
Okay.
And The Wizard of Oz scared her, and Planet of the Apes scared her.
My mom had a pet monkey.
She had a recurring nightmare of like apes coming through the neighborhood.
Oh, wow. And just like decimating it?
No, just coming, like, I don't think it ever progressed past that.
They just were there.
Stage, but the trailer for the remake of the Planet of the Apes, where it's just like standing at the foot of his bed and stuff. It was like a lot.
That's actually not as sinister in the movie as it appears in the
the trailer. So I kind of took that on a little bit. When you grow up with your mom being like, no, we're not
watching the movie about the giant monkey. Yeah.
But I do remember seeing, I think, because King Kong sort of fell into the Universal Monsters roster. And I have a very vivid memory of I had to have been 4 because it was in the old house, but of seeing Kong ripping the dinosaurs, the T-Rex's like skull open. And I remember being like, ow, ow. It didn't hit me quite that. I think because it was fake enough. I think because it was like the black and white.
Old
yeah. I have a couple memories of catching the is it 60s?
I think it's the 70s. The one
60s,
with
70s.
Jessica Lange.
No, the Godzilla movies.
Oh, yeah. Those are, for a long time they made them.
I remember catching them on cable when I was like 10, 11, 12.
So not as scary for your mom because she didn't have nightmares about...
Well, she also wasn't watching...
Giant lizards invading?
No, she wasn't watching... at that point, she was watching everything with us, but... and I remember Mothra, and I was more drawn to the special effects. The miniatures and the models and all of that stuff. And I remember, aren't there 2 weird fairy girls in one of them?
I've never seen any of the old.
Oh, yeah. I think there's 2 little, they're twin, Japanese fairy girls.
I saw the only Godzilla I've seen is the one that was with Matthew Broderick up until the new ones. And then
saw that one in the theater.
Yeah. I think I might have too. And then the only Godzilla... Or the only King Kong I've seen up until the new ones also is the 2005 Peter Jackson.
So I hated that one. I thought it was such a slog.
It is a slog.
So indulgent.
But I actually kind of love it. There are parts I sincerely hate that I think could get cut, but I like a lot of the character stuff, and I
remember
really
the
like Jack
dinosaurs
Black.
Trying to eat them.
Yeah. And they're bugs and stuff too. Yeah, no, it's bad.
I had blocked that literally until you said it, and now
It's a very there's a Schitt's Creek thing where David is like, I just have this thing about bugs with milky exoskeletons, and he's trying to get Stevie to kill the bug. That's how I feel about that part.
It also was a place where technology we had the ability, but we hadn't earned the responsibility yet.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And so it just really put a bad, because I specifically remember the T-Rexy dinosaur trying to eat her, and they were going through too much motion.
She falls a miles worth of space,
and it was hanging from vines, still trying to eat her.
Yeah,
and I was like,
This is too much.
Yeah, I was like, I'm just gonna go to Wawa.
There are things about that movie that I really enjoy. Like, I think parts of it are really beautiful, and I think, it's a fun Naomi Watts, Adrian Brody's in it, Kyle Chandler's in it. There's like a lot of people that are good, but it's like 3 hours long, and that's too long for a King Kong movie.
I loved that because Naomi did meet with Fay Wray before she died.
Oh, that's fun.
And there was a quote, I don't remember if it's from that meeting or if I just found it around that point, but Fay Wray said something about how her whole life she always felt like the Chrysler building belonged to her.
Oh,
and like
same.
only in like her old age did she realize she was like that it was the other way around.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
that's nice.
But
I like that.
she was like, anytime I saw it, I felt like it was mine.
Yeah.
And I mean, no.
Yeah. I love the Chrysler building.
But so they did Godzilla with Aaron Taylor Johnson and Elizabeth Olsen, and that was the first thing I really saw her in. Elizabeth Olsen.
Oh,
I remember
maybe.
she like had a couple of indie things that popped up.
I still haven't seen that one where she like is escaping a cult. Kind of. I really want to watch that one, but yeah, maybe for me too. That might have been the first thing.
I had a full-blown panic attack, which
unrelated to the film itself.
No, the film didn't help.
What? But it was already brewing before.
Yeah, it was like an internal crisis. Well, and I mean, my whole life I grew up like I'm on medication now, so I'm fine. But mostly
get diagnosed if you need to.
If someone needs to hear that, I mean, I spent my entire life thinking that that medication wasn't for me because I thought it would change my like creativity, and it didn't. It just sort of harnessed it better. Yeah. So if anyone ever feels like they have anxiety or depression or issues, don't be afraid of it.
Go talk to a doctor.
But I've been prone to anxiety attacks, which are slow building. But that was one of a very
like a freight
few times
train,
where it was like a full panic attack where I had to get out of the theater. Like I was like,
because you left and
I don't really remember.
You missed the entire beginning. There is like a whole deal where Juliette Binoche like sacrifices herself in order for everybody else to get away. And you came back and you were like, what's going on? And I was like, well,
I remember sort of like grasping to get out of there.
Yeah.
Well, because there was also that trailer for that like Speak No Evil movie with the like little owl plushie.
Oh no.
That rolled off the shelf and did the like the
ha-ha-hoo. Yeah.
Ha-ha-hoo.
No.
And so the whole thing was really kind of a lot.
Straight up blocked that. Thanks very much.
But I remember enjoying Godzilla. Period. Well, and the thing is, because I do have it on Blu-ray. I think it was on sale, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get this." And the thing is, I just remember watching it the second or third time. It was not as good as the theater because I that's one of the few times where I was like, the sound mixing in this was incredible.
Yeah,
especially the train scene, the scene where they were on like the bridge. And I just remember almost feeling like we were there, like, you know what I mean? Like a studio audience, and you could just hear it like moving. Oh, it was so.
I miss the movie theater. All I want in the world. All I want in the world is to go back to the movies. It's been, when this comes out, it will have been an entire year since I've sat in a theater.
Yeah. I've said this is the longest I've ever been, twofold. This is the longest I've ever been not going to the movies since the first longest time, like since I was a child.
Yeah.
And the same with Disney World. This is because I haven't been in Disney World since 2018.
Yeah, and I mean, even we were going almost once a year. But
easily, yeah. Well, because even when you didn't have your pass, you still went to Food and Wine.
Yeah.
And it's just
so close. We're so close to getting vaccinated, so
and nothing can go wrong.
Well, yeah, we'll see.
So yeah, and I remember Godzilla being cool and fun, but there was something about it that I was just like, okay, I'm done. And we saw King of Monsters.
It's like, they're not done.
Even with, we'll get into it a little bit. Even with Skull Island, that's my issue with this. Is I very much feel like this entire franchise is sort of an answer to a question that wasn't asked.
I mean, I get that for sure, but I appreciate that they're doing it. Like, I appreciate that they, even if it weren't working, I think that they would course correct in a way that it then would work. Not like the Universal Monsters thing, which like did a really bad mummy movie with Tom Cruise and then was like, peace.
It's existing in a place between the DCEU and the MCU.
Sure.
Where it's like the movies are fine.
Yeah.
But they do still feel like boxes to be checked versus
I mean,
so I ended up liking Skull Island the most.
Okay.
I ended up liking Skull Island a lot.
Oh, yes. Did the gin and Chick-fil-A help?
Well, that's more of a disclaimer than anything else, because I mean, we had the movie on, but we also were eating and drinking and talking through it. So
and it did take us like 4 hours to watch it because we kept pausing it.
I don't know anybody's name. I don't know like the specifics of the plot, but as like something fun, like if you ever watched a movie at a party, that was sort of the effect I got from this. But I did want to say before we move into properly Skull Island, but the King of Monsters, it was another one that I wasn't in the mood. Like it was the kind of thing where it was opening and you guys were going, and I was like, kind of like you. Or
did we cover it? I feel like we covered it. Did we not? In between
Drag Race and Shrill, I think I made a joke about Godzilla being a gay icon.
Oh, okay.
Or no, well, Mothra said gay rights.
I remember that now.
Well, she was the best part of the movie, and she's dead. I mean, it was. I think I would like. I'm actually considering watching it again now that I like Skull Island.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to see it when we saw it, but much like your plight last night talking about Cherry.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, well, if I don't see it now, I'm never going to see it.
Exactly.
And so I saw it when I didn't want to. And so I remember kind of being a little bit of a grump because I was just like, it was the thing, the like Transformers effect. Where
sure, I see that a little.
I was just kind of being clobbered by.
Well, at a certain point, you're like, there's like 8 kaijus on screen, and I don't know who I'm rooting for. Like, this is very stressful.
Well, and I mean, like the other movies had come out, and like the Meg was more fun.
The Meg was more fun.
And I am someone who likes fantasy, and the kaiju is grounded more in reality than I prefer.
I was gonna say that these movies are like serious in a way that they could be a little bit sillier. I wish they were a little
Especially
bit
considering
sillier.
their legacy.
Right. But I do still really like them, and they just keep pulling like actors I love. So that's like, because like Alexander Skarsgård is in the new one, and Millie Bobby Brown is in it again.
Well, she was in.
Yeah, she was in King of Monsters.
Mm-hmm. What brought all this to fruition is I did find Godzilla vs. Kong is coming out on HBO Max.
Yeah.
And I saw the trailer, and there was Skarsgård. There was what's her name? Is it Hall?
Rebecca Hall. She, I think, was in one of the other ones as well.
She's a low key fave.
Yeah, I know. I love
She doesn't pop up in a ton of things, but when she does, it's like, oh, what have you been up to since The Prestige?
The Town.
Mm-hmm. Or didn't she do that movie, Kristin? I've never seen it, but it's apparently really good.
Oh, yeah, it is apparently good. She also just recently directed something that is getting a little bit of buzz. So,
and there was like a lot of people to the point where I actually made a point to kind of forget because I wanted to be watching it and be like, oh, you. And there was color, there was neon. I don't know, it looked more fun. And so, yeah, transitioning, properly into Skull Island. I kind of loved this. I don't think it has any right being as fun as it is.
Yeah.
And this is high praise, and I don't mean it from a place of legacy or prominence, but from an enjoyment factor and thematically, this is up there with Jurassic Park for me.
Oh, okay. Nice. Yeah.
Like,
I get what you mean, not legacy-wise, but like
it didn't
as much fun.
It didn't redefine cinema.
No.
The way that Jurassic Park,
and special effects and the way that we interpret things.
And it struck such a perfect tone because it is, I mean, people die.
Yeah.
And it's kind of
so many people die.
It's kind of horrific.
Yeah.
But also still fun and even a little bit funny.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's not overproduced somehow. And I mean, it's wall-to-wall CGI, but it's not overwrought.
But I think there is enough physical stuff that they are interacting with that it doesn't make it feel like it's wall-to-wall CGI.
Well, it was well directed.
Yeah.
To mention the Transformers thing again, I didn't feel like I was thrown into a blender.
Right.
There are so many scenes in this movie.
It's graspable action.
But I mean, there are so many scenes that are total chaos. Yeah. But the camera is grounded. Yeah. Our perspectives are grounded. Mm-hmm. And they do so much fun stuff, especially like the first times when the helicopter's going in and Kong actually attacks, where you have the what ends up being a palm tree hurtling towards you. And I couldn't identify what it was to the point where I was like, is it a wormhole? What is happening in front of them? And the camera, instead of it being like, dun, the camera is steady and allows it to encroach. And when he grabs, it's like the camera is still steady within the helicopter, and we like tilt down where it's
really is very from the perspective of the people who it's happening to.
And I was going to say something that could sound like bad, but I mean it good, where it's like it's almost like a theme park, like
a ride, like
a simulator, like Star Tours.
I was going to say like Everest.
No, I mean, yeah.
I get what you mean.
Like, we're like, whoa!
Yeah.
And they establish who these characters are. There's more of them than you'd expect.
Yeah.
They differentiate between them, and then it's kind of a blast watching them get picked off one by one.
Yeah.
If anyone, I'm a sucker for, like, the and then there were none, you know?
Yeah.
And
no, definitely. And I also just think they picked a lot of good actors, and especially good actors that aren't necessarily household names yet, because the most grizzled military guy is Shea Wiggum, and like we know him primarily from Boardwalk Empire, but then he's been in like a slew of things since then, and he's like hey, that guy. But then also another one is Mark Evan Jackson, who was on The Good Place and he was on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and like basically every time there's sort of a priggish bureaucratic guy in a movie, it's him. And so there's just like lots and lots of people like that it was really fun to, like, you're right, watch them, because he gets squished.
they're soldiers, so it's like
some of them are soldiers. Mark Evan Jackson's a scientist. Like half of them are scientists and half of them are soldiers.
But it's the sort of thing where it's like, this was a risk. This was part of the job.
Yeah.
Like because over time I've come to actually hate Jurassic World because I thought it was too mean, and it was delighting in its meanness.
Yeah.
And it's, in particular, the Katie McGrath part is the point where I was like, this is like, in hindsight, I'm sort of like, I'm going to walk out of the theater. But, and a similar thing happens here, but it's like, I don't care who that dude is.
Yeah.
In a way. And I mean, I don't think that most people, granted, I like Katie McGrath.
Yeah.
I don't think most people cared about her. But
well, the thing that was so gross and that stuck out so bad about that is that up until that point, Jurassic Park had never killed a woman. The franchise had never killed a woman. And then it was like Colin Trevorrow was like, and we really got off on that. And I was like,
it really did. And it was like they really enjoyed, because the implication was that her crime was that she was a bridezilla.
Yeah.
So it was like coached and feminine. Like
so she deserved to get picked up by a pterodactyl, dropped into the water, picked up by the pterodactyl again, and then the pterodactyl and her get eaten by the
eaten like
huge
horribly
fucking thing.
over like a minute and a half long segment.
And I'm just like,
because she cared too much about her clothes.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't care.
I hated everything about it. But, you know, that aside, it is kind of fun watching people get picked off in weird ways.
Yeah.
And it also, this movie masterfully balanced its PG-13 rating, because there is some shocking and graphic stuff that skirts the line. I mean, it just manages. I was really sort of taken aback, and I mean, I think it was good because it makes you care about him, Kong.
Yeah.
But I was taken aback by how bloody he gets.
Yeah. I remember liking that a lot when we saw it in the theater too, because I was like, you never really see him bleeding. You like know that he's being shot or whatever, but he takes like, you know, multiple helicopter blades to the hand and his arm, and he goes to the water to like clean up, and he is like wounded. Yeah. It was interesting to me too.
Well, like I said, I mean, to use the term body horror, it's like, because we just referenced it in our Suicide Squad episode where I compared it to Hellboy.
Yeah.
And I meant the scene at the end of Hellboy where the demons were like ripping people apart.
Oh, not just the Ian McShane's.
Not the Ian McShane
umbilical
poltergeist
cord?
vomit.
Yeah.
Umbilical cord. Yeah, no, that wasn't quite what I meant. But there is that where, because there's the one, I'm still not entirely sure medically, scientifically how this is possible, but there's the guy who's like peeing or something, whatever, and he looks up and he's like, oh no, and then the next time we come to him, there's just like a spider leg down his throat.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of like, I don't think any of this actually,
I don't think it followed the path of his digestive tract. I think it was just right through it.
Yeah, that was my least favorite part.
Yeah, of course, the giant ass spider.
Well, also because I couldn't quite figure out what it was doing. Was it intentionally preying on them, or was it just passing through?
I think it was sort of like Kong, where I think it like stumbled upon these people. They were releasing explosives into the ground to draw out Kong, but then they drew out other things too. Okay. And so I think it was kind of like, who the fuck are you?
It was a lot. Because it also had like things like bungees that was like, ugh.
No.
And I mean, I don't like spider stuff. Like, I've still never seen the scene in, well, twofold, the Deathly Hallows ride at Universal Studios.
You close your eyes.
I close my eyes every time they go through the spider part, or in The Hobbit. I've never seen that spider scene.
I don't remember
the first Hobbit movie.
Hobbit. Oh, yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
I'll be right back.
And so as I was leaving, someone had already seen it. And they're like, it's like 3 minutes. And I was like, thank you. But no, I mean, I wouldn't cut that spider scene, but it leans against the line.
It does. It's a lot. It's a lot for sure.
And I loved the like elk or whatever that thing was.
I do like when there's sort of like fantasy creatures, but only like vaguely.
Yeah. I would have liked a little bit more. We got enough that I was like, I felt satiated.
Sure.
The octopus was a lot.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, it's like, I'm always really impressed when a movie can make this stuff fun.
Yeah.
Like another random example is that movie A Perfect Getaway, where there's like some really awful, like, again, body horror stuff.
Yeah.
But the movie, it has you laughing.
Sure.
And groaning,
well, like,
versus just groaning.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
One of my favorite parts in Skull Island is once they meet up with John C. Reilly, and he's like,
the Iwis won't speak their name, but I call them skull crawlers.
And Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson are like,
why?
Like, Tom Hiddleston's so sincere, is like, why do you call them that? He's like,
because it sounds neat.
And Brie Larson is like,
I'm fine calling them that. Are you cool with it?
Yeah, that seems like
I like the name, so I think.
And they just are like, yeah, 100%. It's just really good. Like,
they were fine.
chemistry.
I actually kind of liked that they were kind of boring. They were kind of dull, just like the standard action heroes and stuff.
I will say this is probably the hottest Tom Hiddleston has ever been.
He looked different in this. And I don't know what it...
Well, the hair.
Yeah,
partially.
Is it just that it was short?
Well, it's short, and it's his natural hair color because it's black every time we see him with Loki, and in Crimson Peak, his hair is like black.
I'm used to his blonde hair, but yeah.
And he's a little tan, and he's just like, he was like an RAF
maybe
pilot.
It's the tan, because I was going to say, I kept wanting to say maybe it was because he was American, but he wasn't.
He was an RAF pilot, so he was, everything about him was different.
And she ended up being good, too. I like her a lot, actually.
Not my Captain Marvel.
I think she's miscast as Captain Marvel, but I mean, I think she's sufficient.
Yeah.
Well, that's another issue with this franchise for me in the first place, is it was like Elizabeth Olsen and Aaron Taylor Johnson were my entry point, and I'm like,
sure.
Oh, I'm not.
They don't carry over. Yeah.
And so for me, I'm like, if I'm going to go see Kong Skull Island, then it's like I want to be investing in Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson. And it's like, so I get there by the end and then they're done. And I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, because this is the 70s and all the stuff now is now. And so it's like,
she pulled off. She looked like whatever they did to her hair.
Literally, she came on screen. He was like, ugh, her hair is brown. And I was like, it looks more golden in the sunlight.
It did look, and it was the way they were sort of like curling it or whatever. It looked very 70s in a way that working. I got there. But it just was sort of like kind of like a dishwater. I was like, ugh. I mean, granted, that was all the rage in the 70s apparently, but
she's much more striking as a blonde, so it makes sense.
Well, because she's not like she's one of those where it's like she's very capable of things, but she isn't innately those things.
Yeah.
So by the end of the movie, I was finding her more captivating than initially, and it also is a little bit not that kind of movie. It ends up not being the Jeff Bridges and Jessica Lange,
which I honestly was so thankful that they didn't start on this grand romance where I just was like, that's one element too many. This is like everything about this movie is framed like a Vietnam War movie. And I really appreciate that they really stuck with that till the end. And I just was like, that's all we need from this. We don't need this like sweeping kiss up on the vista of like while Kong looks on.
We don't not get that, but it's like
they have chemistry, but I like that they don't push it into the romance. I really appreciate it.
And I was really put off at first because you guys were talking about how like, oh, he's so big. It's the biggest he's ever been in an American movie. And I was like, oh my God. And it ended up actually working great. I never lost. And the
you don't lose the scale.
No, the big battles, because they're like in like a lake or like lagoon, probably more like it. And it looks like a kiddie pool when they're splashing around in it. But you still feel the scale. I'm apparently a stickler for scope and like actually feeling it, the weight, the heft, the space of.
And I think this movie does a good job of that for sure. Yeah, I agree.
So I didn't really care for the skull crawlers.
No, they're gross.
Well, they're gross, but I also it felt. I mean, it was fine.
They're not super interesting.
No, I was gonna say it felt kind of lazy. It was interesting that they only had 2 legs, because you don't think
they're sort of like a wyvern. Almost.
Yeah, you don't think of crawling with 2.
Yeah,
and I was very intrigued by the concept of the Hollow Earth, which I guess didn't we actually get a little bit of that in?
I think in Godzilla King of Monsters, I think we did, because that's been an ongoing thing. I think through all of them, it's like that's I can't remember the guy, the main scientist guy that's been in both of them.
Mm-hmm.
He was mentioning it. He was like, that's like a thing that we think is that they're all just sort of under there. Like that's where they come from.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that was interesting. Because that wasn't Millie Bobby Brown and her mom. Wasn't it her mom that she was like with?
Wasn't it not a Formiga?
They were like, yeah, it was Vera. They were like hatching something underground. They were hatching one of them in King of Monsters.
Yeah. This was also really colorful.
Yeah.
Very stylish. The sun is a character in.
Well, yeah, it's like I said, it's like the Apocalypse Now poster, which is kind of great.
The Saigon, like, yeah.
But it's like immediately, like at the very beginning, it's very like dull DC like bureaucracy.
Well, at
colors.
the very beginning, it's not, because they land in Skull Island.
Sure.
And I knew from the opening shot, because you guys had kind of been telling me for a while, like, it's good. And I'm like, it's good doesn't always translate to I will like it.
Sure.
And that's where you were wrong. You were like,
fair.
You will like it.
Well, I also can't be sure with a movie like this if you'll like it.
Okay, well, we're introduced to a dude just no concept of where he's coming from. It cuts from that then to just the mascara.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
And then a plane crashes, and I'm like,
huh?
What's happening? And then he like lands with his parachute, and then like from there I was like, this has
potential.
This has an identity. Yeah. This has something that it's doing, and it's gonna be at the very least interesting.
Well, it's also, I really like, there's a moment when they first recruit Tom Hiddleston, and he is so bisexually
couched in bisexual lighting
that it's like blue on all of this, and then there's just a little bit of neon pink right here. And
it's in a Mandy Moore music video.
That, and then there's the scene when they are in like the boneyard, the like graveyard kind of, and someone lets off green smoke, and it's like he's like going through the green smoke with the samurai sword, and I just like
there's just like gorgeous shot after gorgeous shot.
Yeah, a lot of color and a lot of really nice shots.
I think it's so much better than what was recognized about it. Yeah. Like I think people remember it as like at best, I think they're like, oh, it was a half decent monster movie. And I was like, it was actually great.
No, it's great.
I'm going to watch this again when we get home. Yeah. I don't know. I'm surprised I was this
I think for me, it's my favorite of the 3 that have come out so far, for
easily.
Sure. Yeah.
But
also like 80% of that is just because I like Tom Hiddleston so much.
But here's the catch. Here's the kicker. That's what I was looking for. Here's the kicker. I am invested in both Godzilla and King Kong.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know who I'm rooting for.
Okay.
Because I couldn't be fucked to care about Batman versus Superman.
Sure.
But I'm sort of like,
who's gonna win?
Who do I?
So I remember when the trailer came out and the internet friggin' exploded because they were like, this is so against the like character that we know of Kong and Godzilla. And I was like, I wish I cared about anything as much as people care about the relative morality of King Kong. I was like, this is absurd.
Well, this movie established it.
Yeah, no, it did.
There's a precedent.
Yeah.
So, yeah, color me.
Impressed?
Yeah.
Surprisingly impressed.
Yeah. So.
Score another win for movies I made you watch that you liked. I think I'm ahead now.
I was going to say, I think we need to drop that narrative because...
Still salty about the ones I lost.
Pick good movies.
As we've shown, I can do that. I'm capable.
The Day After Tomorrow is garbage.
I love it. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not even arguing that it's not garbage. I just still love it. All right. Well, you can also watch Skull Island along with, I think, both of the other Godzilla movies on HBO Max in order to prepare for Godzilla vs. Kong. And then you can also follow us on Twitter at So I'm Watching or Instagram at So I'm Watching This Show. We also have a website, soimwatching.com, which links out to everything. And other than that, just please rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes or YouTube or wherever you listen. And that's it for us.